Hello, and welcome to my explanation of Bitcoin and where I think the future of Bitcoin is going. So, before I start this off, I'm basically just an average person. I'm interested in investing money, and I believe that Bitcoin has a strong potential towards a future increase in price. And let's just start, the original price was quite low, around $13 around the start of recorded history of prices for this. That was in 2013. It then went up quite a bit higher, peaking a little bit over $1,000. I think it got to about 1,100 at one point. Oh, yeah, here, 1,108 on November 29th. This was around the time when the Silk Road website was raided by the government, and the Bitcoin really became popular when the U.S. Marshals put for sale 50,000 Bitcoins. When we're looking at this, people who wanted to bid in this auction had to deposit, between $100,000 to $150,000. We're talking about real. This is real. When the government puts something like this on auction, and this is something that people are taking really keen notice of. So I'm going to close this off here really quickly. So I've gone to a dark market comparison website with screenshots right here. So basically, this is just a listing of some of the marketplaces that are currently online. And as you can see, a lot of the postings on this is for drug listings. This is kind of scary when you look at it. I mean, for instance, Silk Road 3 is quoted to be online. So this sort of brings us to the question of what are Bitcoins good for except for buying illicit things with? CoinDesk actually has a very good article on their own website. They're an alternative to something like Coinbase, but basically they have a bunch of different things, like you can buy stuff on Dell with that, Microsoft Overstock, Newegg, and a bunch of different places that you can buy various items with. So Bitcoin clearly has legitimate uses apart from illegal uses, essentially. But what makes Bitcoin really stand out? I think it's, a lot of it does come from the hype, but as you can see, the price remained relatively stable for quite a long period of time, and now it's starting to go up again. This is because for during this period of time, there was a lot of laws that were trying to get passed making something like Bitcoin illegal. But lately they've taken a more sort of, I guess you could say, interesting approach where they're considering, well, let's consider this some sort of currency so that it can be taxed. That's one of the reasons I really try to recommend Coinbase as your Bitcoin wallet, because Coinbase is actually located in downtown San Francisco. So if you go to the About page for this website, you'll see they're located in San Francisco. And what's really good about that is this shows that Bitcoin is really accepted by the U.S. government. In fact, one of the U.S. government mints is downtown in San Francisco. So that's something that really gives a little bit of credence to Bitcoin. If there's a major Bitcoin wallet company located in San Francisco, it's a trading place. They also have a trading sort of thing where you can trade Bitcoins just like a normal stock trading exchange. But anyways, moving on. So we've already reviewed this, the Darknet Markets. Something that's really interesting is that the authorities are paying really close attention to these darknet markets. So I highly recommend you don't even go to these things. And one of the reasons for this is there's an interesting article that I found. It was actually a little while ago, but basically they were saying Tor is sort of an anonymous way to browse the web. Well, not exactly, because to move through Tor, which is essentially an internet browser which allows you to go throughout the deep web. And the deep web is actually something which does comprise about 90% of all websites on the internet. Problem is, you can't really browse it. You have to know each individual website is there. In the deep web, there's something called the dark web, which is where these things right here, like these websites, are available. So the deep web is definitely not the same thing as the dark web. The dark web is merely something that exists in the deep web. There's a lot of really bad stuff on the dark web. I mean, just really, really bad things. Drugs being among the very least of those things. So think about the worst thing you can possibly think of, and it is available on the dark web. Needless to say, with something like this, if the government is running certain Tor servers to try to figure out who you are, that means you should steer very clear of this. I'm just mentioning this area right here so that you actually can tell. There's a reason that, going back to the previous page here, there's a reason when the whole Silk Road fiasco came to a crisis, it was at $1,100, and then it crashed way down to around $408, and then it subsequently went down to $203. People were just panicking because they were like, well, no one really is going to want to use Bitcoin anymore because people only used it for Silk Road. That's absolutely incorrect. As you can see, there's things like Microsoft. They did, I think, remove it recently, but things like Dell, Overstock, Newegg, those things are all accepting Bitcoin. And there's even a website, I don't know if they have it in here, but you can buy gift cards for various other places. And, it's called Gift, G-Y-F-T. I've used this to buy Amazon.com gift cards. And then you can just go buy anything you want on Amazon. So it's essentially a way to convert Bitcoin into something which you can buy virtually anything with. That's another reason I really like Coinbase. What Coinbase is doing is they're also accumulating a list of payment sort of addresses of known illicit, basically drug dealers and other people of that type. So they go to places like Silk Road 3. And if you send a payment from your Coinbase account to that known illegal payment address, Coinbase is just going to disable your account. That's one of the reasons I think Coinbase is so good if you want to keep this completely in the open, is that you still have control over your money, as in you can transfer money to you can use a wallet to store your Bitcoins in on your own computer. I just like Coinbase in that then I don't have to worry about it. But anyways, moving on to Tor. Tor is this thing which you can navigate the dark web with. So there's a lot of people who claim Tor is really useful, and it is. But going back to this one article right here, you've got to consider if the U.S. government is operating different nodes on the Tor. So basically, Tor acts as sort of the way it hides your identity is you type google.com and it bounces your google.com request to a whole bunch of different Tor nodes. They're called nodes, and they're run by private individuals. The government itself can be a private individual. And then it bounces it around on various different nodes until it reaches the exit node. So let's just say the government controls all of the nodes that your information is bouncing between. That's not very secure, is it? Problem is we don't know how many of these nodes the government has access to. So I'm not trying to say that Bitcoin is not terribly anonymous. And let's be quite frank here, Bitcoin is not anonymous. Every single Bitcoin transaction that has ever occurred is listed on the Bitcoin blockchain. And that's basically the way that Bitcoin has its existence. There's a bunch of really good TED Talks about Bitcoin. I'm just trying to give a really quick overview. So there's a difference between something like a VPN and Tor. Tor protects your anonymity by bouncing you around to various different nodes. VPNs encrypt your data, transfer it over the internet, and then decrypt your data when it goes to the target website. So a lot of people really I just like private internet access because at least it claims it doesn't store my private data. It might, you don't know, but there's a couple of others which just openly say, oh, we store logs of your data, and I don't really like that. Plus, private internet access is pretty cheap as well, which is really nice. But going back to Tor, if you have something like a VPN and Tor, that adds a sort of another layer of privacy. And again, these are just the Darknet marketplaces, which are, where you can buy illicit things. For instance, they also have a Darknet listing of just a whole bunch of different Darknet. Oh yeah, so how to access the dark web, it has, so deep web links list. So there are thousands upon thousands of different things. Let's see. Just going on here, as you can see, you can buy credit card numbers on here. This is, again, an illegal service, but let's just see. Blog for organization, legal, technical stuff. This is, just a legit thing. Again, the dark web is just part of the deep web, and this is sort of a big collection of different deep web links. Something really interesting, though, about the deep web is it's really hard to use something like PayPal or a credit card because there's no way to really use it. So you need to be able to use something like Bitcoin. Something that is really useful also about Bitcoin is it allows you to sort of bypass censorship. So say I want to transfer $100 from my Bitcoin wallet to the wallet of someone who is in North Korea. And let's just say this person is trying to get a revolt against the government of North Korea going. I can transfer this money from my Bitcoin wallet to that person's Bitcoin wallet, and the instant I click the button, the money goes. This does create issues because it makes it easier for people to donate money to bad causes. Again, remember what I said about the government being very watchful in this area. That's another reason I strongly recommend, if you get into Bitcoin investing, that you really stick to a source such as Coinbase, which is located in San Francisco. There's an interesting article on a website, Krebs on Security. He has 3 basic rules for internet safety, And this is something very important if you do start getting a little bit more interested in Bitcoin. Firstly, if you didn't go looking for it, don't install it. Basically, there's a lot of really bad websites out there trying to steal Bitcoin from you. And if you go to a website about Bitcoin and it has this really interesting app you could install on your computer, just don't do it, because it's probably a virus which is going to try to steal Bitcoin from you. Secondly, if you installed it, update it. So like if you have Adobe Flash, make sure that thing's up to date. Like, oh, see here it says right here, Flash. Thirdly, if you don't use it, just get rid of it. So let's just say you never use Adobe Flash. Maybe it's time to uninstall it. So another thing that's interesting is, so I'm just showing Kaspersky Internet Security. This has really good ratings. I use this. And the reason I use this is because the US government is known to sort of snoop on your private data. And Kaspersky is owned by a Russian company. So the thing that I think is interesting about Kaspersky Internet Security is if the US government tries to force them to provide data to the US government, the Russian government is probably going to be a little annoyed. I know this is kind of a little bit of a stretch here, but let's just take something like Norton Antivirus. Norton is a US company, so they are 100% under legal or in the legal domain of the US government. So they don't really have any other options. So again, you maintain transparency with the US government by using a Bitcoin wallet and exchange that's located in the US, but then you want to take steps to not be giving the government all of your information. Firstly, with using Tor. Secondly, with using a VPN. Thirdly, with using these sort of rules to stay safe online. And fourthly, with using an antivirus software that's not made by a US-based company. Just sort of as I guess you could say it's sort of like a assurance that your data is still your data. And even if the Russians install their own backdoors so that they can snoop, they're pretty unlikely to be stealing stuff from US citizens unless they want the US government to become very angry at them. And so that's one of the reasons I kind of, for the time being, I really like a foreign but relatively trusted internet sort of antivirus company. Again, this sort of wraps up my explanation of Bitcoins, but I hope this helped. If you did find it helpful, please do like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll be back in the future with more videos. Thanks. Bye.